I can see people connecting, but hello, if you can see me and you can hear me. Hello.
Hi, Mel. Yes, can hear you fine.
Hi, Catherine. Oh, Catherine, Diane, it's nice to put faces to names. You're actually both booked on our Vietnam and Cambodia adventure. So far, there's other people joining, but I think Felicity, I think if that is who FJ Walker is also, but she's on the October one, you two are on the April one. I will give it a few minutes. So if you've just sat down and you thought, oh, I should have grabbed a drink or something, you've got a couple of minutes. I'll just give it a few minutes to let everyone join in. Hello, for anyone who's just joined.
Hello.
Hi, Kate. How are you?
Hi.
Good, good, good. You're coming to Thailand, aren't you, in January?
I am indeed.
Nice. Hi, Paula. Thanks for joining us.
Hi there.
Hi. I was just saying to some of the other ladies who just come on, I'll give it a few minutes just to let people join. I can see quite a lot of people trying to join. So if you need to just grab a quick drink or something, if you didn't get a chance, then you've got a couple of minutes. So
okay, I'll go and do that now.
Hi, Heidi. All these names popping up, and obviously I know people from chatting to you, but it's nice to see the faces.
Yeah, hi.
Hi. It's a horrible night, isn't it? It's a good night to be thinking about holidays.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'll give it a couple of minutes. For anyone that's joined and doesn't have the video on, that's absolutely fine. I know it's kind of right around possibly finish work and having your evening meal and things as well. So feel free to carry on, Catherine. Don't be put off. You're absolutely fine to have your video on, even if you haven't eaten.
I was going to apologise that I was going to sit here and eat, but it's been that kind of day. So.
Yeah, don't worry. I know it's right at the time. You do it much later, and then it's too late, but you kind of do it around this time, and it's right when people need to eat. So yeah, no.
I was aiming to be done by 6:30 and get dinner, and it just didn't happen. So.
Yeah, me too. Me too. But I'll not eat while that would be a bit be a bit much, wouldn't it? So yeah, who else have we got? We've got Jade, who I think is also coming to Thailand, if it's the same Jade. So we have an Eva. I don't know if it's the Eva I know, who's been to Bali, who's coming to Thailand. And then, yeah, Meg. I'm not sure we've spoken before, Meg. We've got quite a few people on there. So we've got a mixture. We've got people who are already booked on to trips, onto a few trips to Vietnam and Cambodia and Thailand. And then we've got a few people that I'm not sure. They're either the people that I know or they're different people with the same name. And a few people that are obviously just interested in potentially joining one of our trips. Got a couple more people still joining. So for anyone, obviously the ladies that have already booked onto a trip, you know a little bit more about Travel Queen because you've obviously gone a bit further and you've been on the website and you've booked onto a trip. But for the ladies that haven't done, I'm going to sort of do a little recap first about Travel Queen just so people know what it's all about. Not loads, so there's quite a few people on here that will know what Travel Queen's all about. Okay, so I'll make a start for those of you that are already here. I don't want to keep you too long. I'm going to do my absolute best not to talk for hours and hours. It's hard because I love what I do and all the places we go and things that we do. There's so much that we do on both trips, but I will try to. So if it feels a little bit like I'm rushing through it, I'm just trying not to keep you really, really late just so we can go through both tours. In a bit more detail. But first of all, thank you for joining us on this lovely soggy evening. It's a nice thing to do to be thinking about next year. And just so you know, if you've not, I think most people now are quite familiar with Zoom, but if you're new to Zoom, how it will work is sometimes when people are doing like a little presentation, they'll just mute everybody. But I prefer not to do that because I'd like to keep it quite informal and, you'd be able to comment and ask me questions as we go. There'll be time at the end to ask loads of questions. We normally get into, a big chat at the end, get into the nitty-gritty stuff like what bag to take and all those kind of things that we think about. So there will be, but please feel free, if I'm just talking about something, you just think of a question, please feel free to ask. And if you don't have your video on and you just want to pop it in the chat, I might not see it right away with all the different stuff going on the screen, but I will have a look in the chat as well. So if you feel like you want to ask a question but you don't want to switch your video on and do all that, I'll have a look at those as well. So for those that you don't know, Travel Queen is it's my company. I'm Mel. I've probably already worked that out. So Travel Queen is a fully certified tour operator member of the Travel Trust Association. So what that means is it's not quite as well known as ABTA, but it's kind of the same principle really. So we're part of a larger kind of trade body, and what that means, it's actually stricter than ABTA. So actually all the money that you pay to Travel Queen doesn't just come and sit in my personal bank account. It sits in a travel trust account, which is basically overseen by trustees. So what that means, without boring with the detail, is that any monies paid to Travel Queen have like 100% financial protection. So not going anywhere. We've lasted all the way through COVID, so we're now going strong. But should anything ever happen to Travel Queen, your money would be fully protected through the Travel Trust Association. So it's just to give you that little bit of peace of mind. You can go on and check them out and ask me any more questions about that if you like. And how it works, so for it's quite unique, and there's obviously lots of different tour operator companies doing group tours. I don't know if anyone's ever done any other group tours before. A little wave if you've done any group tours. What normally happens, and I see this is quite a nice thing really, is most people that join Travel Queen trips have never done a group tour before. So if you're sat there thinking, ooh, have other people done lots of solo travel or done lots of group trips? That's normally not the case. Obviously every now and again we get someone that's maybe been on something else with another organisation, but we tend to get lots of newbies, so lots of people completely new to the experience. So that usually makes people feel a little better that then they're all in the same boat. And I think part of that is because it's women only, so it's quite unique, it's quite personal. So I think people from looking at the tours on the websites and the descriptions get a feel that it is a bit more of a personal experience. So I don't know if that was your findings, but just to kind of reassure you that most people that come, and also it's a thing that's very rare for us to get people booking on together, with someone else that they know. So all the ladies that join are generally doing that on their own. So it's quite a big step, so good on you for going for it. It's quite a big, a big thing to go for it, but just knowing that everyone else is in the same boat is usually quite nice. And what that means as well is that because everyone's kind of booking on their own, everyone's sort of starting in the same position of like definitely being up for meeting new people and sharing that experience. They've not just got their travel buddy with them and, they're happy to say hello, but, they're sorted and they're going to go off in the evening and do their own thing. So we generally have people that want to share the whole experience together, and also very friendly and welcoming. If we do get people on the tours that have done a group tour before, it's usually one of mine that they've been on before and then they've come back. So they still have the same sort of kind of welcoming experience because they're like, well, that was me, I did that last time, and they're still kind of, oh, welcome to Travel Queen, and like getting to know people. So even if some people do know each other from previous trips, so Suzanne has just come on. Suzanne, I've just recognised Suzanne's face. I see the name and I think, I wonder if that's Suzanne. So Suzanne's been to before. Hi. So we do get people coming back that have been on previous trips before, but quite often we'll then end up on a new tour without knowing anyone. Occasionally there's a couple of other people on that trip as well that they might have met from a previous one. But yeah, generally it's always a really welcoming environment, and it always amazes me. Well, it doesn't amaze me anymore because I've seen it so many times, but how quickly people go from day one of not knowing anyone, to kind of suddenly looking around and seeing the group all chatting and getting on and just, getting to know each other. So easy for me to say I know because I see that. And what I would say is if you haven't had chance to look at this on the Travel Queen website, there is a whole page dedicated to meet real Travel Queens. So there's loads of little reviews and feedback and a few little videos as well that ladies have very kindly done for me about their experience. And they also refer to the fact of what it was like to do it for the first time, So obviously, rather than just listening to me talk about that, you can go on there and have a look at what some of the other women say as well that have done tours with me. And on that note, just to give you a little introduction, I'm just going to share a short video. It's only a couple of minutes. It's just a bit of an overview, some of the feedback from women that have been on tours, and a few pictures and stuff. So, you know, there's real women out there that have been on these tours with me. So I'm going to share my screen with you for a moment. And you should be able to see a large group of ladies who are actually in Thailand. So I'll just play this for you. And then I'll go in to talk about our Thailand adventure and then our Vietnam and Cambodia adventure. And I'm just going to talk you through basically our itineraries, what we do each day. And that just hopefully will give you a sense of how I put the trip together and all the different things that we get to do. So here we go. That's just a little snapshot of some feedback from ladies, and a lot of those comments and stuff are from people that have done the Thailand adventure or our Croatia adventure. I must admit, as a one-woman band, I've not had a chance to update it yet with all the feedback from. We have had our Vietnam and Cambodia adventures earlier this year. We had our first 2 tours, so we had a group at the end of February into March, and also March into April, but all very similar sort of feedback. It's just me not getting a chance to update that, so just let someone else in. So I'm just going to play next for you. This is a video that goes through our Thailand adventure tour. So I know people are here that are already booked onto Vietnam and Cambodia or might be interested in that tour as opposed to Thailand, but because this is our longest running tour, I've been doing this trip since 2018. I've got the most footage basically of women on the tours, you know, out and about and doing different things on the activities, and have the most feedback from women that have done that tour. So I'll just play this for you. Again, it's only a couple of minutes, just gives you a sense of what to expect on the actual tour.
Happiness, it goes like it's burning light. Was her stuck still, no turning back. It's no corner, and she is under there. So that I ever made in my life. I literally had the most amazing holiday of my life. One of the best experiences of my life. One of the most amazing trips that I've ever been on. It was absolutely amazing. You've got to go to Thailand.
Okay, that's the end of the little video. So hopefully for those people already going to Thailand, that will give you a nice little taster to look forward to. All of this information as well, by the way, is on the website, so you can go back and look. And I should have mentioned earlier, I am recording this Zoom as well, just so that I know a few people weren't able to make it, so I will share it afterwards and you'll be able to watch it back if you need to. I mean, I'm sure you'll soak up enough information from being here on the event, but if you do want to kind of look back at anything, I think, what did she say about this? You'll be able to have a look at that too. So just as an idea, I know we've got a few people here booked on Vietnam and Cambodia, and there's a couple of people booked on to Thailand as well. Is there anyone here interested in Thailand that's sort of thinking about that as a possibility?
I am.
Got a little wave. Yeah, I know you've mentioned it before, Suzanne. You've been
Mhm.
it's like a few years back, isn't it, that you've been thinking about the the Thailand one? So
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out which date would be best
yeah.
for me because I'm in the process of moving house. So
Oh
I'm thinking maybe March. If not, maybe the later one.
yeah,
Is it November?
yeah, November next year.
I'm thinking of booking into the January trip.
Yeah, of course, Heidi. Yeah, you're looking at that one, aren't you? So yeah, all really good times to go. There's no massive difference in terms of, obviously there's a difference to you in what's going on in your life, but in terms of climate stuff. So because I'm a small company, I basically have the luxury to be able to do the tours when is the absolute best possible time to go. So you can go to both Thailand and Vietnam and Cambodia all throughout the year, but there are better times to go for the best weather and the clearer skies if you're doing something like the Halong Bay trip and stuff like that. So basically all the times that are on there, because sometimes people say, oh, is there a better month to go? So all the dates there are kind of pretty much, the best times to go. Particularly Vietnam and Cambodia, it's a bit like a jigsaw puzzle trying to work out, because we cover obviously a bit more ground on the Vietnam and Cambodia adventure. So like North Vietnam climate's quite different to Central Vietnam, and then you've got Cambodia, which is a different climate again. So again, yeah, picked out the very best possible times of year to kind of capture the best of all three spots. So I'm just going to now share with you and just go through our Thailand adventure. I'll say it as quickly without rushing it, but to kind of give a bit of a skim through the itinerary. So if you are here for the Vietnam Cambodia adventure, I'll be doing that shortly afterwards as well. So I will share my screen again. And like I say, if you have any questions, please just feel free to ask me as we go. It'll just give everyone a break from my voice as well. So all this information is on the website. So you've got there, it's 13 days, 12 nights. We've got all the dates. So we're going in, for those that aren't familiar, we've got January, which is coming up very soon. Then we've got March, and then we've got November next year. So there's loads of different activities and transfers and everything included. We stay in really, really nice accommodation. We have a mixture of kind of luxury places on the beach and like gorgeous hotels with sea views, including my favourite one, which is where we end the tour. It's like just a really, really beautiful hotel. But we also stay in places with lots of character as well that are very, very Thai. So we stay in tree houses in the jungle, and we stay in kind of like rustic little Thai style bungalows as well. So there's all sorts of different things to choose from. So we, for the Thailand tour, we fly into Phuket, but this is the whole of Thailand here, and we actually only cover this kind of little pocket. So we do quite a lot of traveling on the trip, but it's quite carefully planned so that we don't feel like you're doing too much traveling, so you've not got like a day just to get somewhere, that kind of thing. We're talking like a couple of hours on a speedboat, usually as like an average. So we fly into Phuket, and then we head up to, we don't stay in Phuket, that's quite a touristy area with all these amazing places to choose from. There are better places to stay. So we fly into Phuket airport, but then we head north to Khao Lak for the first night, just to kind of chill out, recover after the flight, get to know everyone, have a bit of sun, be on the beachfront. We don't have any activities that day. It's just about arriving and meeting everyone. And then the next day we head up to Khao Sok National Park, which is the jungle basically, where we stay in the tree houses. And then we head south again and we island hop to 5 different islands. So I'll go through our actual itinerary. So the first day I've mentioned, so these just flashing up are some pictures of the hotel where we stay, and so it's right on the beachfront. So you can go down and have a little walk along the beach. People have varying degrees depending on what time you arrive. It's usually kind of early morning or lunchtime at the latest. So people have a mixture. Some people are kind of straight in, don't want to sleep and just spend the day enjoying the hotel. But there is time that, so if you do just need to catch up on an hour or so skip in your room, to kind of, get yourself on track, then that's absolutely fine too. So it's a relaxed day. And then the idea is that then the next day you wake up, everyone's always full of energy the next day because they've had a good night's sleep in Thailand, wake up there, and then we head off to the jungle. So we stay in this amazing treehouse camp right in the middle of the rainforest. You'll literally see monkeys swinging past in the trees, and the tree houses have balconies overlooking there's like sheer mountainside and rivers. It's a really beautiful spot. You can see some of the pictures there. Flashing up. So we get there, head into the tree houses and get checked in, and then in the afternoon we go to what is quite often many people's highlight of this tour is we go to an elephant sanctuary, a very carefully chosen elephant sanctuary as well for anyone with any concerns about that. Obviously there was a huge thing in Thailand about kind of elephant riding and stuff years ago, so we don't do that. And we go to a very, a sanctuary where you can tell that the local people actually really care for the elephants. So how that works is it's kind of like an elephant spa. It's referred to as kind of like an elephant spa day. So we go along and we feed the elephants, and then they walk. They're not kind of, taken. They walk to an area. You can tell that they enjoy it. And we basically give them a bit of a mud bath, and then they kind of rinse off. And the benefit is that the elephants are actually much older elephants that may have at one time in the past, when it wasn't, as people weren't as aware that it was necessarily not so great for the elephants. So they've been kind of, they may have done things in the past, other tourist things, but now they're in this sanctuary, so they get to just relax and chill out. And you can see their little eyelashes fluttering when you're like stroking in the mud and stuff. It's beautiful. And again, it's one of those things where you can get as involved. People generally do get involved and get in the mud, but if you do just want to go and watch and you don't want to get up too close and personal, that's fine as well. So that's our first day in the jungle, and then the next day we have an amazing day. We head out onto the lake. We have a boat trip in amongst all the mountains, but it's just a really stunning, naturally beautiful place. Really quite striking if you've never been anywhere like that before. So we have a boat trip along the lake, and then which is what some of the pictures are from, really beautiful scenery. And then we have a stop on a raft house, which is on the lake. So that's where the picture of the girls jumping in together is. And then there's the option to go and do a hike through the jungle as well, which we do with a local guide who will go and kind of explain things about the bamboo and help us spot monkeys and things like that. And then we have a little trip on a little raft. If that isn't for some people, occasionally some people opt out and stay at the raft house and just chill and don't do the hike, but it's a relatively easy hike. Obviously it's hot, so you can decide on the day. but most people do that and go along and love it. So, and then we're back to the tree houses in the evening. So, and the tree house camp where we stay, it's pretty luxurious for tree houses. So they have ensuite bathrooms, there's a restaurant camp, you can even get massages at the camp. So, you know, it's not too, it'll be a different world to probably something you've experienced before, but it has some very nice touches to it to kind of add to your comfort. And there's an amazing little restaurant with really great food. And then the next day we head back down and we start our island hopping. So we head to our first island, which is Koh Phi Phi. And along the way we stop. So we break up the journey by stopping to see the Big Buddha temple. So one of the things when I was putting this tour together, I was really conscious that a lot of group tours do include a huge amount of travel, but a lot of that travel tends to be on like public buses or taking like a day to get somewhere. So I'm under the thinking that people, obviously our age group is a little bit, it's not a load of backpackers who've got months and months to travel. It's your precious sort of 2 weeks off work as your holiday. So I try to minimize the amount of travel, or when there is a bit of travel, you know, break that up and have something interesting along the way. So you don't just feel like you're spending the day getting from A to B. And you have other things going on. So we stop at the Big Buddha and have a lovely lunch overlooking the sea view and everything. And then we head on to Koh Phi Phi on our first speedboat. And again, another example of how we do things a little bit differently at Travel Queen is that day we have a private speedboat that waits for us, because if we had a public speedboat, we wouldn't have time to stop, we wouldn't have time to go to the temple, you'd just be on the bus for like a few hours and then you'd get there and you'd be straight onto the speedboat and you'd having to wait in line with everyone else basically. So we have a private speedboat that's just waiting for us, and if we take a little bit longer then it's like, it's fine, they're waiting for us. So it's a nice little perk. And then when we get there we don't have to wait around, we're just straight in and off to our first island. And then when we get to, so we've had the first night in Phi Phi, we tend to normally just get there and have a bit of a night out. Phi Phi is the liveliest of all the islands we go to. The tour that we do is very much about enjoying the sort of daytime experiences and exploring, but there are things to do, there's nights out and stuff if you want to do that as well. So Phi Phi does usually end up in a bit of a beach party night and watching some fire shows and stuff like that. And then the next day, we get out to really explore. So we do a really amazing boat trip to this spot here, which is, well, part of it is a beach where there's loads of monkeys just running wild. And then we go to Maya Bay, which is now back open and handled much, much better than it was a few years ago. First time I ever went to Maya Bay, it was amazing and there was hardly anyone there. And then there was a period of time where they just let too many boats into the bay and it spoilt it really. But thankfully the Thai government have allowed they closed it for a few years to let the sort of marine life and everything recover. And now there's like a different little side of the island where you go to off a little up here and you walk through. So it's a much, much better experience. It's more magical, as you would imagine Maya Bay to be as you arrive. So we go and do that. And there's also a couple of other little beautiful lagoons that are less well known, but really, really stunning. We get out and there's a chance to do a little bit of snorkeling as well while we're there. And then for those that have got energy left after that, we do a hike up to the viewpoint in Koh Phi Phi, which is where you see the pictures. I'm waiting for it to flash up now. You see some pictures overlooking sort of Phi Phi Island, which is really unique. So we do that, we just head up there. I say a hike, it's not really a hike, it's just there's quite a lot of steps to get to the viewpoint. So I use the word hike to get across that it's quite strenuous in the heat, but we just go and it's not rushed, we're going at our own pace. So that's some of this is the picture here, so you've got Shell there, and we watch the sunset from up there, which is really, really beautiful. I don't always have a full count for that one, not gonna lie. People have done the boat trip and some people just chill on the beach afterwards, but it's there if you want to join it. And then the next day, complete contrast, and this is done on purpose. So how I've designed the trip is so that you've got lots of different types of experiences on the island. So Phi Phi's a little bit busier, it's got like the nightlife, and then we head to Koh Muk. And when we head here, we've had a few busy days in the jungle and Phi Phi, and everyone just kind of goes, oh, it's like we've arrived in paradise. So we stay on these beautiful little beachfront bungalows. And these are all the pictures that are flashing up at the moment. So I'll get another picture in a moment. But what's really beautiful about this place is it's a gorgeous resort, but it's actually just walking distance. That's the tip of the resort where we stay, but it's just walking distance from a very, very tiny little local village. There's a little sign up saying Kumuk City Centre, and it's the least city centre place you'll ever go in your life. But yeah, everyone's super, super friendly, happy that tourists are there, but that's quite nice to kind of just wander out and see as well. So we have, and there's time to use, there's a spa at the hotel, so you can go in and get massages there, or there's just incredibly cheap massages just out in the little village. So that's quite a chilled day, just traveling there by speedboat from Phi Phi, and then just relaxing at the resort, and then we meet up in the evening for dinner. And then the next day, there's loads more time to chill as well. But we also do probably our most adventurous thing on the whole trip, which is again is optional. But most people usually opt for it. Occasionally, some people opt out if they're not particularly strong swimmers. But that's not essential. I've had people, non-swimmers, do this. You can do it because we'll be fully, fully up in life jackets, and we have a little conga line that goes through the cave. So we do like a swim through to this secret little cave area. That used to be used by pirates to actually store, like hide away their treasures and things. It's a very short swim through, but it does feel very adventurous. So people usually give it a go and then think, oh my God, I'm so glad I did that. It was something I wouldn't normally do. But you're with other women sort of trying it for the first time. So and then we go back to the resort, and then so this is the cave that's just flashing up at the moment. And then in the evening, we then get tuk-tuk rides over to a different part of the island and just go for dinner. But it's in a very, very local Thai restaurant set in the cliffside. So this is all the pictures of everyone walking over on the tuk-tuks and then walking over the beach. And it's beautiful. That place was still there. I was really happy after COVID that it was still there. It's proper family run. There's a couple of little kids that I've seen go from like teeny tiny babies to now they're like, coming out, bringing out the menus and things. So that's really nice. We go there and watch the sunset. And then we've had a couple of quite, very sort of chilled days in Koh Muk. And then we head to our third island, which is Koh Lipe. If I had to choose, I love all the islands, but if I had to choose, this one would be my favourite, because it's kind of got a little bit of everything. So it's got a little bit of, things going on, bars and restaurants. There's lots of cool little shops to walk around, but it's also got really quiet parts and beautiful beaches. So these pictures just flashing up are where we stay right on the beach. So we stay there for a couple of nights, and the pictures of the bar are a very Thai bar where all the Thai staff kind of get up and sing and play drums, and they pass out instruments in the bar, and occasionally people get up and sing. So I either have no one in the group singing, or one time we had 4 people. I thought this is unheard of, but it's absolutely not compulsory. I never get up and sing. This does not sound good in song form, but yeah, we always go in there and have a good night. So as well as all the daytime activities, we generally always have a plan in the evening for people to meet up. That's quite unique on group tours. Sometimes there isn't a plan, it's just kind of like daytime activities and then free time in the evening. There's always free time if you want to opt out of meeting for dinner and stuff like that. You absolutely, and I encourage people to just, if you want to just have a bit of time to yourself, please feel free. But if you do just want to be with the group the whole time and don't like the idea of being on your own, there's always something happening in the evening as a plan. And obviously, because I've been before, I know where I can take us that has like some good menus that are good for people. And I kind of go along before and book us a table and stuff like that. So we have a couple of nights in Koh Lipe. And the next day after we've arrived, we do a boat trip there as well. There's quite a lot of boat trips on this trip, but when you're hopping around the islands, it's kind of, it's one of the best ways to see it. So what's really special about this boat trip is, again, there's a chance for snorkeling, but even if you're not into snorkeling, it's worth coming because we go to our own little private beach. Sometimes it changes, it's not the same beach. Pictures of this beach coming up, we've been there several times, but basically we head out with the local skipper. And he knows that I want us to be basically on a beach where there's no one else, it's just for us. So if we were to head to this beach and it happened to have been, crashed by other people, we'd just go on and find there's quite a lot of choice for beautiful little bays for us to have. So we head there and just chill out just ourselves for a little while, which is quite special too. And then there's a chance for snorkeling. And then we also, whilst we're in Koh Lipe, head to a place called Sunset Beach, which is just me taking you on a little walk across the island to a different part of the island that you wouldn't necessarily find by yourselves. And it's just a really beautiful spot to watch the sunset. we stop off at a little temple on the way as well, where there's like a little monastery where there's actual monks living, and it's a very kind of rustic island temple that the Thai people use. And then after there we head, so that's our furthest south island. So Koh Lipe is almost in Malaysia. It's that far south. You can actually get a boat from, we don't because there's enough other things to do, but you can get a boat from Koh Lipe to a Malaysian island. So that's how far south we go. So then after Koh Lipe, we start to head back up north again and towards Phuket. So we stop in Koh Lanta. There's so many islands, you could honestly go to all of them, but obviously we've only got 2 weeks, so we cherry pick out the best ones. And Koh Lanta is a beautiful island in its own right, but one of the highlights of why we go there is the cooking and cocktail class that we do there. So it's such good fun, and this chap that's just popped up, Noi, is now got legendary status in Travel Queen. People have met him like, oh, Noi's there. You have loads of other great Thai chefs as well. So we go along and they basically talk us through what Thai food's all about, how it works, give us little samples, tastes of things, and then everyone kind of has a go at making the dishes, and then we all sit down and eat them together. And we also do a little cocktail class as well. And what I would say is people always really, really love this event. So even if you normally wouldn't be up for doing a cooking class on your holiday, they're so entertaining. Like the Thai, it's literally done almost as like an entertainment thing as much as a cooking. You will learn a lot about cooking, and you will leave with recipes to be able to make them at home. But I would say even if you're not that into cooking, you will still have you'll have a great time and you'll eat some good food. So that's Koh Lanta. And then we end the tour. So we go to our last island, which is called Koh Yao Yai, which is very close to Phuket. But again, I find that Phuket isn't the best place. It's quite touristy. When some people have talked about kind of a seedy side to Thailand, there's certain pockets where you tend to get it. And we don't go to any of those places. Basically, we kind of just go to the real Thailand, if you like. We go to Koh Yao Yai, which is great because it's only 20 minutes on a speedboat back to the mainland for your flight home after a couple of days. But it's a really, really beautiful hotel. The best hotel I've ever found in Thailand. It's 5-star luxury, but it's still very, very Thai. So all the kind of architecture you can see all around the pools and stuff, it's very, very Thai. The balconies just have beautiful like hand carving features on the balcony. And it's just a really beautiful spot. So with the best infinity pool ever. So all these pictures that are just flashing up at the moment are all taken from that hotel. So we don't have any set activities when we're here because we've done quite a lot already. And the idea of this place is to spend, you get about 2.5 days basically here, just to relax and chill out and, you know, have a rest before you go home, because I want you to have an adventure, but I want you to not feel like you need another holiday to recover by the time you get home. So there's lots of chill out time. We have a plan of when we're going to meet. We usually kind of head to like the infinity pool on our last afternoon to watch the sunset together. But there are loads of different activities there that you can still choose from. You know, if you don't want to sort of sit and relax too much. So there's all sorts of, you can see some of the ladies there trying out paddle boarding. You can have a go at Thai dancing. They even have the Muay Thai boxing that you can have a go at. And there's yoga as well that you can book onto. So all those are included when you stay at this hotel. So if you do want to try any of those things as well, you can do. And then from there, that's then sadly time to go home, but the transfers are all included. So there's like a little speedboat hop from there, and then the transfers, the taxi will take people back to the airport as well. So that is our Thailand adventure. Hopefully didn't take too long to run through that. It's hard though, because you stop in each place and you're like, oh, we do this here and it's brilliant. Is there any questions about any of that for Thailand in particular first?
Yeah, Mel, I was just wondering how much spending money do you think we'd need to take?
So for Thailand, I always say to people that, and people don't believe me, and then they get them and say, oh, you really were right. I take personally about £500-600 for the 2 weeks. And that's usually, from talking to people, it's around that amount that people usually spend. It does very much depend in Thailand and in most places in Southeast Asia. So it's similar for Vietnam and Cambodia, perhaps a little bit more expensive in some places in Vietnam and Cambodia, not a lot, still way cheaper than at home. But it very much depends on what you like to eat and drink, because everything else is included. So all the travel and the transfers and all the activities. So it's really kind of your food and drink, and it depends what you like. So I'm just going to let someone in. I'm just a bit late. Yeah, so if you eat local food and local food and drinks, and by food and drinks, so if you like the local beer as opposed to getting, you know, really fancy cocktails all the time, if you eat the Thai food as opposed to if you start having like burgers and steaks and pizzas, they'll generally be a bit more expensive than the not expensive, but a bit more expensive than Thai food. So, but I would say that kind of £500-600 will allow for eating lots of local food, but also having, you know, some nice cocktails and some nice sort of treat yourself to some more expensive seafood and things like that. Even at like the 5-star hotels, it covers, you know, that's not doing it on a budget. That's kind of giving yourself plenty. So people have spent less than that, and people have spent a bit more depending on what they like to eat and drink.
Would you have that all in cash, or would you do half? How much stuff?
Yeah, so I always recommend that people do have the cash on them. There are some places where you can pay by card, but it's still, even now, nowhere near as common to pay by card as it is, you know, in most places in the world now. You just pay by card, don't you? It's still, there's a lot of places that will only take cash. Or you might get stung a little bit by paying extra fees. So particularly on the islands, if you pay by card, you might pay a higher fee. And I know there's all sorts of different cards out there now, aren't there, that, you know, like that kind of replace the old sort of traveller check type thing where you can get better rates. I'll be honest, I don't use those. I just take the cash. I just like to think, but that's generally, cash is king in Southeast Asia.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
You can kind of get to the end and sort of use your card a little bit at like the hotel, even if you're kind of running out, you think, oh, I don't know how much more to get. But I would generally just advise to have cash on you. And there's safes in all the rooms, you know, that we stay as well. So if you don't like the idea of carrying that with you, there's always somewhere safe to store it. And there are cash machines as we go along. Not in some places, there's not, like in the first few days, you won't have access to a cash machine in the tree houses in the jungle, for example. So it's worth just having plenty with you. But then, card as backup if you need to get any more out. So, and of course, you might want to spend some money on souvenirs, and also the very, very cheap massages is generally thing that people spend money on because they're so cheap. So that might be an extra thing that you spend. Spend some money on while you're there. Yeah.
Mel, was the cave trip? It was an extra cost, wasn't it? How much is the to go swimming under the cave?
Yeah, I'll be honest, off the top of my head, it's not a lot. It's something like £30 or something like that. It's like nothing. It's just nominal, everything. Yeah, so for the tours, for the 2024 tours, that used to be included, but because everything's just gone up quite a bit. So, and because that's an optional thing, that's a way of me to try and keep the price down so that you only do it if you're actually, you know, interested in doing that. So, but that's something that you don't need to book in advance. I kind of have the slot booked for us to go. And you can just let me know when we're there. I'll tell people about it and say this is what we're doing and what to expect, and you can decide when we're there if you want to go for it.
Can I ask about the luggage? I think you've said before not to bring a suitcase because we're on boats and stuff.
Yeah.
Do I need to get like a huge backpack, or like what's
So I do recommend for the Thailand trip, which is a bit different for Vietnam and Cambodia, it's not quite the same. But for Thailand, I do recommend that people take a rucksack rather than a case. And the main reason for that is I do get as much help as possible everywhere we go, because we move around a lot, you know, we have 7 different stops. So I get us help pretty much everywhere. So we'll have to carry that very little. But occasionally there's a chance where you will have to carry it, and you can guarantee that on that time when you might have to carry it, we'll have arrived onto a beach, and the reason you have to carry it is because it's really, really busy, and maybe another big group's arrived at the same time. So it might be like, well, we can have help with our bags, but we'll have to stand here in the hot sun on the beach for them to kind of come back and, you know, and help us out with it. And really, we're like a 5-10 minute walk down the beach to the resort. So it's more just so that in times like that, a case, I don't know about you ladies, but I find it really hard just lifting a case and walking with it. It's just, plus when you have a case, you just you just put more in it. Even if you tell yourself you're going to pack light, you just naturally fill it more and you can fit more in a case. Whereas with a rucksack, if you do have to carry it, it's actually much easier. It's a bit of getting it up there sometimes is a bit of a thing, but then once it's on, it's actually much easier to walk with it. So you can't pull your suitcase along the beach. You'll just create a big mound of sand, it won't roll. So that's the main reason. Because we do a lot of speedboat travel, we're on and off the boats, and it's just kind of easier for the guys loading up the speedboats with all the bags and things, really. So you don't have to clamber onto a speedboat with your rucksack on. They do that and load it up, but it just makes it a bit easier for storing them on the speedboats as well.
Yeah.
But I think mine's about it's something like a 60 litre, and then there's like an extra little thing on the side that you can add on. But once you're in the Facebook group as well, before we go, I normally share like a little picture of mine and say, this is mine, it's a 60 plus whatever 20 litre, and if you want just to give people advice on what to take. You can get bigger ones, but obviously then you put more in it and then it's heavier. So yeah.
Is that enough then for the 2 weeks then? That sounds.
Yeah, and you can always as well. There's little places where you can get it done as you go. But when we go to Koh Lipe, that's kind of like our halfway point, and there's places there where you can just go into the little village and get literally your entire bag of clothes washed for like a few pounds, washed and dried for like a few pounds. So that will make a difference. If you can kind of wash, you'll probably find that you'll tend to wear similar things. It's hard to pack. Again, I give advice on that as to like different things that you can wear, and obviously everyone can make their own decisions, but tips on things. So like it's always hot in Thailand, sort of day and night. So first time I ever went many moons ago, I might have had, I might take this, I might wear this at night, and I'm like, no, I won't be wearing that, it's too hot. So you can get away with wearing the same thing in the evening as you can during the day. By all means, get up as dressed up as you want to, anything goes, but like I wouldn't even take like a pair of heels or shoes for at night. I just live in kind of flip-flops and maybe a pair of trainers, if we could do like a hike or something like that, and that's all you need, really. So it's quite kind of light stuff. So, and you don't need like a jacket in the evening in Thailand. There's a couple of spots in Vietnam, Cambodia, for example, when we do like an overnight cruise in this beautiful kind of Halong Bay area, and that because you're out on the boat overnight, in North Vietnam's a little bit cooler at different times of the year than, for example, Thailand and Cambodia. So there I say to people, you might want to bring a pair of long pants and a jacket, something like that. But yeah, each tour's different. But for Thailand, you don't need any jackets for the evening.
So do you just mainly like need trainers, or would you like the hiking? Is not hiking boots or anything like that? It's just trainers.
You don't need hiking boots. It's more just for so I did the very first time I did the hike. I did it in what did I do it in? It wasn't in flip-flops, but I had like a pair of little pumps on, but they just didn't have any grip. So most of the time you're fine, but if there has been a bit of rain and it is a rainforest, it can just make the ground a bit slippier. And there's an area, majority of the hike is quite like just a trail through the forest that you can kind of follow quite easily. But right at the beginning, just don't know why they do it like this, just to put everyone off. The first bit is just a bit rocky when you're going up. So if you were in some, shoes where you could really feel, the rocks underneath, you might just be a bit uncomfortable. So I would say a pair of trainers or pumps, or even like walking sandals, sometimes people bring, just something with a bit of grip. But you don't need to be taking like a big pair of hiking boots, because you probably just won't use them for the whole rest of the trip either. It's just something. It might even just be like the trainers that you travel in. You could just have a pair of shoes that you travel in, and then just use those. And I just say to people, maybe not your bright white, best pair of trainers, because they might just get a little bit muddy doing that.
Sure. What about snorkeling? Is it advisable to take your own, or?
You can do, if you're quite particular. There's quite a few different chances to go snorkeling, but whenever we do the trips, all the snorkeling gear is included, so you don't need to bring that, and it's just one less thing to put in your rucksack. So yeah, that's all included.
Okay, great, thanks.
No problem. Was there any other questions about Thailand or anything that's
two more, Mel, if that's okay. I'll say them quick so we're not keeping everyone. The bed situation,
Yeah.
I just wondered how many nights. I know it mentioned about sharing a double bed and, you know, keeping the cost down, which is great. I just wondered how many nights is that you're sharing the double bed, or is it just dependent on?
It just depends on each location. So everywhere we go, if there's a resort that has any twin beds, then we have them. It's just like, you know, there are a lot of twin beds as we go. But occasionally, like, do you remember there was a pitch that you might have seen it in the video as well? There's this Komuk resort, which is just this beautiful place, and it has enormous beds. They just don't do twin beds. So if I ruled that out and said, well, we can't stay there because they don't have twin beds, we just wouldn't be able to stay at that resort. So I know it seems like a strange thing, particularly when before you go in and you don't know people, but the reality is in a lot of rooms you have twin beds. They're kind of right next to each other anyway, and then you just go and there's this huge bed. So I only ever choose places, like I've ruled so many places out that have only had double beds. When I've gone, well, that's not suitable. Like, no, there's just too cramped, there's not enough room, they're too small. And so it's only ever when there's, you know, a huge bed, which is basically you're not going to get near anyone else. But it does just depend on the places. So at that place, it will be there aren't twins. I mean, if someone was really like, no, that's an absolute deal breaker, then they can get extra beds, you know, like a single bed brought in. This is just like an extra charge for that. But most of the places, like I say, if there is the option for it, but they always say to me, like, we can't guarantee that everyone in the group will get one. Yeah, so that's just an option. But like I say, it's just purely, I'd have to rule out so many places if I just insisted everywhere, because we tend to use quite sort of smaller boutique places. And I feel quite strongly about this, that actually when I was looking at everything, there was these beautiful spots, and it was like, this is clearly like couples go here. It's like honeymoon central, you know, it's beautiful. And I was like, well, why can't we decide we can't get to go there because they just don't do twin beds. And like I said, from most feedback from women that have been on the tours, in reality, it didn't really make much difference because they're so big. So yeah, that's kind of the gist.
And do we need to bring a mosquito net for any of the locations to sleep in? I've never been to
they do quite a lot of places do have them. So for example, at that place in Komuk, they definitely have them in the jungle. They're all individual ones. So that's the most obvious place where you would think it would be strange not to have one. So we definitely have them there, but they're not in every place that we stay. And I just say to people, just advise people to not keep the doors and windows open, you know, when you go in somewhere. So they've also got lovely balconies, but just keep the doors closed after you. And just advise that people use mozzie spray, really. So someone asked me this recently as well. I've never taken, I think the first time I ever went to Thailand, I took a mosquito net with me, like armed at the thing, and then I never used it. There's not always the place to actually put it as well, because you do need something, you need the system in place to be able to hook it up and hang it over the bed. So I mean, if it was something you were particular about, you could try, but I mean, they take up quite a bit of room. It's quite a big kind of item to put in your rucksack or carry separately. But I would say the places where you really need it is in the tree house, and they're all provided there. So.
Perfect. Thank you.
No problem.
I've got a couple more, if that's okay, Mel. I've just got a question about flights, because I know we have to, I think, arrive by a certain time.
Yeah.
And I've not done a long haul flight before. So have you got any like advice or tips with the flights? Because I've been trying to look online, but
Okay. Well,
yeah.
what I always say is, and there's in like the FAQs on the website for each tour, there's usually a link to somewhere on there, but with the FAQs, and that usually explains like the timings that you need. So generally, and this kind of goes for both, obviously the flying into different places for both tours. So Thailand will obviously be different to Vietnam, Cambodia, but it's a similar kind of question, you know, that people will ask, what about the flight? So as a general rule, have a look on the FAQs for the tour, and that will give you an overview. For example, for Thailand, it will be, you know, flight, you want to kind of be arriving at early morning or lunchtime at the latest. And that's the same for Vietnam as well, because we tend to do stuff the first day, or, you know, you don't want to miss out, or you don't want to arrive in the evening on the first day because you've missed a whole day at this beautiful resort. So the timings are around that. So, and I normally just use, and then leaving Thailand as well, that you have to have a flight later in the day, because we're very close to the airport, but we are on a different island, so I have to allow enough time to get you back. and there's loads of time allowed, but obviously to be on the safe side, I can't have like a morning flight coming back from Thailand. So all those transfers are included, and you don't all arrive at the same time necessarily. So our Thailand tour in a couple of weeks that I've got, that's been booked up for ages, but there's one in a couple of weeks in November, this month now. So we've got people arriving. I think there's 4 different flight time arrivals, because you've got some people coming from Manchester, some from London, someone's going somewhere else first and coming via Malaysia or something. So basically, when you arrive, there'll be different sort of pickups points. So I'll either be there, if you're the first one of the day, then I'm usually there to meet you, but then I need to go with the group to the hotel. So I have like a transfer partner, and this will be the same for Vietnam as well. So there'll be either myself, or it'll be one of my partners that I work with, and if their English isn't great, then it'll be a guide. There'll be a guide with that driver to kind of meet you and have a little sign and say Travel Queen group this way, and then they'll take you from the airport to the hotel to meet up with myself and the rest of the group. And then what I always say to people is, if you let me know which particular tour date you're looking at, I can also recommend, some flights that other people have looked at, or, there's certain ones, like there's a Qatar one that goes via Doha, which is the one that generally always works the best for Thailand. So I can save you a bit of time, from starting from scratch. I can say, well, this one works quite well from Manchester. And then sometimes people just go off and find their own. But I always say to people, if you want to just, for sanity purposes, just send me a screenshot of what you're about to book, before you book it, and just say, will this work? Is this fine? Just to make yourself feel better before you actually, press the button. That's fine as well.
I was going to ask, do people tend to book on the tour first and then maybe wait till they get in the Facebook group to discuss flights? Or
they do, yeah, a lot do. But I always say to people anyway to make sure you book your place on the tour before you book any flights. Because they do sell out. Like our November this month sold out. I think it was like March or something last year, and people will say all the time, oh, people kind of mentally think I'm going to go on that trip for quite a while sometimes before they book it. So other times people just
it sounds like me. Sounds like me. I've booked on mentally, but
mentally you're like, I'm going there in March, or I'm going there then. But they do book up, so it is worth, once you've decided, and I know it's a big step to go for it, but once you've decided, it's worth just booking on, pay the deposit, and then you can book your flights then. And generally speaking, the earlier you book your flights for anywhere long haul, Thailand or Vietnam, Cambodia, the earlier you book, the better the deal will get. They don't drop down in price closer to the time, they only ever go up. So it's worth, the sooner you do that, the sooner you can book on. But also once you booked on, then you can get access to like the Facebook group, and so I know at the moment there's people sharing that I know Heidi in like the January group, saying, oh, I booked this one, if anyone else wants to book on the same flight, I'm going from London, someone else is doing it from Manchester. So it's worth kind of checking that, because you might just find your own, but then you think, oh, it was between these 2 flights, and if you know there's a few other ladies on one, you might just say, oh, I'll book that one because I know there's other people on that. So
are there when are the bookings closing for like the different tours for Thailand?
So they generally speaking close 2 to 3 months before, because there's just quite a lot to sort out, for each one, and kind of finalising numbers and things. It's a little bit earlier for Vietnam and Cambodia because there are flights included in that tour itinerary. So we have a flight within Vietnam from North to Central Vietnam, and we have a flight from Vietnam to Cambodia. So the cut-off point is a little bit earlier than it is for Thailand, because obviously we just need to, I don't book those flights until I have everyone booked on to make sure we're all on the same ones, obviously. So that's a little bit earlier.
Just to give me a bit of an like are the places going quite quickly for like the Thailand ones?
Yeah, so the January Thailand tour's filling up fast. It's not that long off as well. The March tour, I would say, is probably coming up to about half full. The November tour next year, there's a couple of people booked on that, but it's not as. But I would say this time of year is the busiest time of year for people booking. So as this weather, it's the weather, I think, and also it's just coming to the end of one year and then thinking about the next year. So in like the travel industry, it's known for just being like the busiest time of year. So it's you sometimes you don't hear anything booking, and suddenly it's like ding ding, just booked, you know. So I don't really have any control over that either. They just sometimes you just wake up and 4 people who've booked onto a trip, you know, they've sat in the evening with a glass of wine and thought, I'm going for it, you know. There was one lady this week and she's obviously just thought, right, I'm going for it. So people can book out with, sometimes people say, oh, let me know when it's filling up, but it's a bit hard to do that for all the trips that we've got. So
no, but thank you.
Thank you, no problem. So I will then quickly just go to our Vietnam and Cambodia adventure, so I can go through that. So I'm going to do the same as I've just done for Thailand. Just find that on there. Read again. Okay, so again, all this is on the website if you want to go back and have a look at it. So Vietnam and Cambodia, I would just say as well, first time I ever went to Vietnam and Cambodia, I was like, people describe it sometimes as like Thailand was, but however many years ago, and it's not, it's completely different. I mean, they are 2 completely different countries. I would say the similarities between Cambodia and Thailand, but then what we do in Cambodia on this trip is very different to what we do in Thailand. So they are it is a very different trip to Thailand. Thailand is, you know, the jungle and then island hopping, lots of time on boat trips and snorkeling and beaches. Vietnam and Cambodia, I would say, is more cultural trip. There's a lot more temples and things involved. And I would just say as well, for anyone that's was here for Thailand and has heard that and is interested and you want to kind of go, that's absolutely fine. So just to thank you if you are going to go because you were here for Thailand. Thanks for joining us. And if you do have any questions at all about Thailand, please feel free to just get in touch with me anytime. And you can always give me a ring for a chat as well if there's something that you wanted to ask but didn't quite get a chance to now. But yeah, just in case anyone goes that doesn't, that might not be here for the end of the Vietnam Cambodia bit. So again, back to Vietnam, Cambodia. So it's a little bit more expensive. Again, we have flights involved in this tour, so I'll go through the itinerary in a moment. But yeah, quite a different experience. We go into, so you can see from like the pictures. So Vietnam, absolutely stunning sort of mountainous scenery. So there's some similarities with this little part of Thailand that I shared, but very different experience overall. So we fly into Hanoi, which is the north of Vietnam, which is the #1 there. And then we go, so we have a couple of nights in Hanoi, and then we go over to Ha Long Bay, which is where we do the overnight cruise. And then we travel down to an area called Ninh Binh, which is not included in a huge amount of group tours. I don't know why, it's absolutely stunning. And it's kind of described as like the inland Ha Long Bay. And then so that's North Vietnam. So that's very sort of mountainous, and then the city as well. And then we fly down to central Vietnam, which is Hoi An, which is beautiful sort of temple-filled village. And then from there we head over to Cambodia to Siem Reap, to see all the temples. So I will just go through our itinerary in a bit more detail. So we have on the first day, so we'll arrive into Hanoi. And in the best possible way will be like a culture shock. So I've been to a few different cities in Vietnam, and I chose Hanoi as the main big city that we go to. It is the capital, but it's absolutely just in the best way possible. You know that you're somewhere different. You know, some cities you can go to and you could be anywhere and they've got quite modern. You know you're in Vietnam when you've landed in Hanoi. So we stay in a beautiful hotel right in the centre of the old quarter. And on the first day, on the first evening, you'll have a bit of time in the afternoon after your flight to kind of chill out. Then in the evening, we go on a Vespa food tour. So the Vespas are the little motorbikes, but they're kind of like scooters, really. So they're very easy. You have your own driver that takes care of everything. But it's a really brilliant way to see the city. We just like kind of bum around, see all the different sites. And we stop and we have like a local guide with us that takes us to all these amazing little noodle places, and we try some weird and wonderful Vietnamese food, the kind of stuff that you probably would never try unless there was someone there explaining to you what it all was and how it works. And then we just spend the evening kind of zipping around and seeing all sorts of really cool sites. It's a really good sort of icebreaker as well for everyone to kind of get to know each other. And then on the second day, we head into Hanoi again, but just with doing more of a city tour. So we go to lots of different temples. We also go, there's a chance to dress up in Vietnamese style, which some of the ladies did. But yeah, and again, we have a local guide with us that will explain, you know, a bit about Vietnam, how it all works, what the temples mean there, again, different to Thailand. And we'll go and see lots of different sites. And then we even have kind of in the afternoon, we have kind of these little cyclo rickshaw drivers will kind of like drive us around the streets of, so there's a little picture on there, and the streets of Hanoi Old Quarter, where you see all these old school markets and things like that. So it's a really cool day. So we have a couple of nights in Hanoi, and then we head over to Ha Long Bay, which is just this beautiful area of North Vietnam that's just all the kind of mountainous, like these limestone karsts, they call them, like really sheer cliffs, but really turquoise water. That's Carly doing some night fishing for squid. And this is the actual boat that we stay on. So we just cruise around, so you have like a full day and night cruising around, enjoying the scenery, and you can just relax on board and soak it all up. We have little ensuite cabins, so there's little balconies from the actual cabins where you can just sit as well and just soak up the views. And there's beautiful rooftop where you can sit and, you know, again, just enjoy the views, watch the world go by, and just watching the sunset up there and the stars come out is amazing. The stars are always really clear at night, so we do that. But there are activities included as well, so you can hop off and go and visit this beach. We just go through a cave which has exclusive access to the company that I work with as well. I've chosen them so that this area can get very, very busy. So I've purposely carefully chosen a company that has access to some of their own little parts that's just for them, so it gets less busy and less crowded than some of the other parts. So there's all sorts of different activities that you can do. Like I said, we go and visit the beach, and then the next day, and there's so much food included on this cruise. There's also, you know, lunch when you arrive, and then there's like a 3-course evening meal, and then breakfast the next day, and then brunch before we leave. And then the next morning, so the picture just flashed up a moment ago, you get a chance to try Tai Chi. Here are the pictures. So you see the sunrise, which is really special, really, really quiet. You can just see the sunrise over the mountains. And then there's a chance to go off and try the kayaking, which will go through this little lagoon, through this little cave tunnel. It's really, really easy kayaking because it's like being on a lake, basically, because it's so calm. And there's kind of monkeys hanging around in the trees and stuff. And then from there we head over to our next stop, which is our third North Vietnam stop, which is an area called Ninh Binh. So on this day we have a bit of a journey to travel over there, but then this is the hotel that we arrive at. So again, very, very Vietnamese style, beautiful place, set in the countryside, kind of traditional style rooms. So we kind of end the day there. And then the next day we head out to explore Ninh Binh. So one of the first things we do is we go to this mountain view top. So there is a bit of a hike to the top. Again, you can opt out if that's not for you. It's worth having a go, but the views are stunning. So sometimes we've had people just go halfway and go, you know what, that's enough. I don't need to make it to the top. A lot of people do go to the top, but you don't have to. You can go part way and just soak up the views, and you're on holiday at the end of the day, so you don't need to work too hard. So we go up and do the viewpoint, and then we go on, spend some time on this lake, Trang An Lake, where there's lots of the local ladies just rowing little boats. We do help them, you know, they do just row that. You could just sit back and not do anything, but it's nice to join in and help them. But they take you, these pictures are just flashing up over the hotel. So yeah, we go around the lake on these little boats. Again, just stunning scenery, just mountains all around. Very sort of looks like, you know, King Kong's going to come around the corner any minute. That kind of scenery. So we have that as a full day, and we also visit the old capital of Vietnam, which is called Ho Lu, and there's temples there. So we have a guide with us again the whole time to explain everything, so you can kind of soak it all up and know what you're looking at, because sometimes that's what brings it to life with the stories of, you know, a local person to kind of explain what it all means. And also they'll share stories about life in Vietnam. Vietnam's had a complex history, so they'll share the history, but they'll also share their stories of like, oh, I remember when I was little this was happening, you know, and it's quite an eye-opener just listening to their stories. So that is Ninh Binh, and then from North Vietnam we then travel to, this is where our flight's included, so we fly from the North Vietnam to Central Vietnam to Hoi An, which is quite possibly like the prettiest little town I've ever been to. It's just lanterns everywhere, like it looks like a postcard. Just everywhere you go you'll take so many pictures. You can get little boat trips up and down this river at night, which is all lit up with the bridges and everything. And there's an option to do a lantern making class if you want to come home with one of your own lanterns, or you can just buy one there if you want to cheat. But yeah, it's a really beautiful place. So we stay in a hotel right in the centre of the old town, and again we just kind of walk around and explore together. There's lots of very cool little small temples and lots of influences from all over the world, and so it's just a really interesting place to head around. And there's a bit of free time here as well to just wander and look at the night markets and stuff like that. So I've mentioned a little bit of that there. I'm just conscious of the time and not keeping you too long. But yeah, you can go on the website and have a look at this. But Hoi An is beautiful. We have quite a bit of time there. We do stuff together, but there's lots of free time to go and explore themselves as well. And even just sometimes it's nice just going and sitting by the river and just getting a coffee and just like watching the world go by. So it's quite nice to have time to do that kind of thing as well as, you know, all the organised stuff. So this is our actual hotel where we'll stay in Hoi An. So it's very modern, but kind of quite, you know, Oriental Vietnamese style design. So it's right in the centre, but you can also get out of the centre, and there is a really beautiful beach. So if you're needing a bit of a beach fix and you think we've done all sorts of things, been quite active, you know, there's pools at the resort, but you can get out and get to the beach as well. And there we go, there's the beach flashing up. And there's, like I said, chill out time in the pools and stuff. And there is also the option to do a cooking class in Hoi An, which is like a cooking class with a difference. So you do cooking class, but you also do it's like a sample. You don't actually do farming, but you kind of go and get out and this kind of show you like kind of how the Vietnamese kind of farming works. So hence the pictures that you might have seen a moment ago of the girls all up in the kind of the brown kind of gowns and the pointy hats, kind of, you know, prepping the soil and stuff like that. So everyone that did it, and that's an option because some people will say, I don't want to do that on my holiday, but half the group that did it last time said it was one of the best days. They really enjoyed it. So again, there's quite a few things that you can opt into there depending on what you fancy. And then from Hoi An, then we have our flight. There we go, that's the farming picture. So we have our flight from Vietnam over to Cambodia. So you'll notice this just as soon as you land, you'll be like, oh yeah, completely different country, absolutely completely different experience. You'll notice it's hotter as well, more tropical feel to it. And so in Cambodia, our main reason for going, there's other things to kind of see. We do explore Siem Reap, the town itself, and some of the more modern temples. The main reason people go to Siem Reap is to see the ancient temples like Angkor Wat, which I'll come on to in a moment. So we stay in a really gorgeous hotel, very tropical. These are the pictures that are flashing up at the moment. So it's got a huge pool. And again, this is where we end the tour. So there's quite a lot of time to just chill out and relax and just have a little bit of a lounge. Some of the girls enjoying a few drinks with a very friendly barman that looked after them. There's hammocks lined in the palm trees and stuff like that. So I always try and end our tours somewhere where there's a bit of chill out time, so you can kind of just, you know, get a bit of holiday vibe and a chill, especially when we've done so many activities. So that's where we stay in Siem Reap. And then say one of the days I then take us on a bit of a walking tour around Siem Reap to just see some of the temples that are in use right now. You know, so you'll see there's my pictures when we were there. So there were monks, you know, just walking around in and out of the temples. And you can go in there and have a look around and just sort of see places that are actively being used by Cambodian people. But then after that day, this is kind of our last full day. We kind of end with bang, if you like, and we go to watch the sunrise at Angkor Wat. So just to go and see Angkor Wat in itself is amazing, but to watch the sunrise at Angkor Wat is really, really special. Everyone said the pictures just don't really do it justice at all, because you take pictures of all the different stages, but obviously when it's darker, we basically arrive at the temple in the pitch black. So we do get up early in the morning, but we arrive and just something about seeing the sunrise coming up and like lighting up this temple around you, because obviously you can't see it when you arrive because it's pitch black. So yeah, it's really, really special. But we go to Angkor Wat, we watch the sunrise from a distance, kind of highlighting, picture will pop back up in a moment, of the actual sort of iconic kind of peaks of the temple. There we go, this is one of the pictures. So that's what it's like when we arrive. Well, a little bit of time after we arrive, and we get a little spot to watch the sunrise. But yeah, really, really iconic. And then once the sun has risen, we then have a bit of time for photos and stuff, and then we actually go into the temple. And again, we have a local guide with us, really experienced, to tell you a little snapshot, because there's so much history of this place, but they'll tell you a little bit about Angkor Wat, and we spend time exploring around there. And then some of the other pictures that are flashing up, there are 2 other temples that we go to that day that are kind of part of the Angkor Wat complex. So you have Bayon Temple, which is where all these big pictures of the Buddha faces that have been carved into the rock. And then we also go to Taprom Temple, or the Jungle Temple as well, which is where you see all the tree roots kind of bursting through the jungle and through the temple. That's actually my favorite one. The seeing the sunrise is really magical, but just on the temples themselves, I really love the jungle one, just because it's a bit Indiana Jones-esque, which is a favorite of mine. It's where things like Tomb Raider and stuff were filmed and stuff as well. It's just otherworldly, completely different. So we have a day there, and I do the guides could keep us there all day, but I generally am like, well, we've had an early morning, so we have a few hours, and I usually just kind of gauge when people have had enough and they're ready for kind of a chill. And then we just head back to our hotel, and then that's like the last afternoon of the tour. Then we just kind of have some chill out time by the pool, get a last meal together, and just a few drinks, and just kind of chill out after you've explored the temples, because like I say, it's hot, so be ready for a little chill after all of that. Shared a little video recently actually on Facebook and Instagram, which was little insights from walking around this temple, so that's worth a little watch. And then that's the end of that tour. So again, the transfers and everything are included. In Siem Reap, the airport's very, very close to where we stay. It's only about a 15-minute drive away, so it's less important about what time you leave, so there's more flexibility on that than there is on the Thailand tour, for example. So I'm just going to stop sharing that, and then if anyone has any questions about Vietnam and Cambodia, probably in flights and everything. So we've got going to Vietnam and Cambodia, we've got Diana, you were the first on. I think you were the first to book. You were straight on, and then Catherine, you're on as well, aren't you? Vietnam, Cambodia, and then I think Felicity, and I've not got a video on, but I think if it's the same Felicity, is booked on, but not until October next year. But I know, yes, there's a couple of other people who've just booked onto the April tour this week as well, so it's a popular one, so people are looking at it all the time. Yes, you're on Vietnam. Yeah, perfect. So yeah, are there any questions about Vietnam and Cambodia at all? Doesn't matter if there's not. I know it's a lot of information to take in. It's a bit overwhelming.
I mean, Felicity's put a question in the chat about recommendations for clothes and shoes.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for spotting that. They don't, because I have so many different things on the screen, they don't always see them pop up. Thank you.
I also wondered, just to add to her question, when you're going to temples, is there a need to be modest? Yes,
there is on both trips, but much stricter, I would say, in particularly at Cambodia, at Angkor Wat. So they will literally have shoulders, and you can't just have a sarong around your shoulders. You have to have like either a proper sort of kaftan that's actual got sort of cap sleeves in it, or a t-shirt, and sort of longer trousers, or you can wear a sarong around your waist. But again, I advise people on that there, and when I give people advice on what to take, I always mention that. So make sure you've got, because there's a lot more temples that we see on the Vietnam and Cambodia trip. So I always recommend, so for Thailand, when we go to a temple, it's like you can just kind of make do with what you've got and just pop a sarong around you. But because we do a lot more temple hopping, if you like, rather than island hopping, we go to a lot of temples, you might just think, well, I want to actually make sure I've got some clothes that I want to wear for the day, for that trip, just so you don't feel like you're just constantly covering up with something. You want to have different outfits and things, maybe. Let's just see. I heard the sun in Vietnam is quite a bit, so I think I would just say that Southeast Asia in general, when the sun's out, you need to have sun cream on. Depends on your skin tone, and you don't have to be fully covered. You do covered for the temples, but I quite happily will just wear sun cream and I'm fine. But I would say particularly for the day when we go to Angkor Wat, it's good to have extra levels of things like a hat. Or when we were there last time, I actually recommended to the ladies, we had a visit to the market the day before, and I said, if you haven't already got it, you might, but if you're already feeling the heat, I was like, you might want to get things like just a little fan. You can pick them up for quite cheap. So they were all going around. Angkor Wat had all the little hand fans and things. So, but yeah, hat's a good idea just to keep the shade off your head. And again, footwear, you can do a lot of things in flip-flops, but I would suggest we do quite a lot of sightseeing. So if you're not as comfortable in flip-flops, it might be worth just having a pair of either shoes like light trainers or sandals or something that you're comfortable kind of spending quite a bit of time on your feet, you know, moving around. And some of the temples have like, you know, crooked little steps and sort of broken flags and things like that, because they're more like kind of the old Angkor Wat, they're more like temple ruins as opposed to going to, you know, a temple that's in use today. Oh, Suzanne, I didn't see your comment. Sorry. Hope you've all heard that. Okay, as she mentioned something about the sound. And Eva's on a treadmill at the gym, or she was watching. I think I've seen any questions.
But I just ask, is there any requirement?
Oh, sorry, Heidi. I don't know if it's at my end or yours, but that did just go a little bit kind of robotic then. I didn't quite hear what you said. It just cut out a little bit of the sound.
Sorry, can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah, it was just a little glitch, I think.
I was just asking about vaccinations. Is there any requirements for vaccinations?
I would generally say, so I do say to people to kind of seek the advice of their doctor on this, because I don't give people kind of a list of things. Advice can change. I would just say, from my perspective, I've never been advised from my GP that I need anything particularly kind of unusual or, you know, more obscure. So in the past, I've been told for some places I've been to, I have to have like the yellow fever vaccination, and people talk about malaria tablets. But I've never taken them for going to these areas, but it's just kind of a case of going to your GP. The reason why I recommend that as well is, without sounding funny, I'm quite up to date on my vaccinations. So I might say, oh, I've not had that, I've not needed to have that, you know, and then obviously it might just be that I've had all sorts of vaccinations based on my history. So if some people have, if for example, people haven't been long haul before, there might be certain fairly standard things that just haven't had, or that they also run out as well, you know, so depending on when you've had them, things can expire as well. So it's worth just, if you go to your GP in the first instance and say, I'm going to these areas, and tell them, rather than just the whole country, if you specifically say the areas that you go into on the trip, they'll then be able, they'll look at the very latest advice. There's like international websites and stuff that they'll look at, but then they'll talk you through it, and they'll sort of say, well, from my perspective, I would say that the risk, you can never rule out like zero risk, for example, of malaria or something, but they'll say, well, if you're not going to these areas, it's probably very low risk. And a lot of times they advise not to do it because you can get side effects from things like malaria tablets and rabies vaccinate, you know, so if you don't really need them, it's not necessarily a case of, oh, I'll just have everything just in case. But they'll just talk you through that, and then you can have that kind of discussion with them, and then make your own decision as to what you want to go for. But you might find that you've actually already covered for anything that they recommend for going to some of these destinations, or it might be that it's a fairly standard thing and you just need to book on and go along, and it's not something that's you'll even know that you've had, you know. So, but it's better to do it, particularly for yourself, Heidi, only thinking of January, to do it
quite soon.
Some things they advise that you have them like 6 to 8 weeks before. Not
right,
but there's one or two, and I can't remember what they are, I'll be honest, off the top of my head, but I know that there's a couple that they have to be done within a certain amount of time before travel.
Yeah, or again, if there's multiple injections.
So yeah, so it's worth just doing it sooner rather than later, because some stuff, like I say, can be done quite last minute, but, and also the timing of it with like Christmas and stuff.
Yeah, sure.
A bit busy, so it's worth just looking at it a bit sooner. So Hello, Fiona. Sorry to put you on the spot, but I've just seen you come in, so I just wanted to say hi. We are actually just coming to the end. I've run through both trips, but just wanted to say hello anyway. So thanks for thanks for joining us. But yeah, we're just at the sort of asking some questions about the Vietnam and Cambodia trip. But I have recorded this, so I will share it in various places afterwards, so you can hopefully be able to watch it back. Did anyone have any other questions about Vietnam, Cambodia, or Thailand?
I had a quick question. Do we need to do something about getting visas, or does that?
Yeah, so generally for Thailand you don't need to, because it's a visa waiver effectively. If you're on a British, UK passport, which I assume everyone is, but you never know. People could, it's not always obvious. So for Thailand, it's generally a visa waiver if you're going for less than 30 days. And there was a lady coming on the January tour that's doing some other travel, and she said she might be going for longer. So I was just highlighting to her, I said, you might need to think about that in advance. But for the Thailand tour, you don't need it. For Vietnam and Cambodia, you do need visas, but they're very easy to sort. Again, it's just something to do, not too last minute. They don't take very long to sort. So for Vietnam, and this changes as well. So the best thing to do is to look on the gov.uk foreign travel advice website. If you just Google travel advice Vietnam or Cambodia or Thailand, gov.uk, it'll come up. But basically that's got like really simple advice for each place. But basically for Vietnam you do need a visa, but it's generally that it's a visa waiver when you arrive, but it just will give you advice on things that you might need to prepare. So for example, proof of your onward flight, which you would have from the tour itinerary that I give closer to the time, things like that, without getting too complicated. And then for Cambodia, you do need to sort a visa before you go, but it's an e-visa. So again, if you just go to that gov.uk website, it'll give you a link to go to the Cambodia thing. You just do it online, and I got mine in like a couple of days from doing it. So you do need those, and there's a reference in your booking confirmation letter. I think the links are actually in there as well, which obviously you've got it online, you click on them, it'll take you to it. But yeah, for both, you need to sort them, but they're straightforward. So you don't need to send your passport off anywhere, like you needed to sometimes in the past.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
Melanie, can I just ask about tipping, like for doing the groups, the tours, and getting around generally? Is there an expectation to tip, or arrangements, or anything?
So it's a good question. So in Thailand, no. In Vietnam there is, but actually for it's an interesting one, because the third time I did our two first tours to Vietnam and Cambodia, I worked with a local partner. And so I've had this conversation with them, and they explained that in Vietnam it is quite the norms, but that's actually built into the price. So rather than say to people, you have to tip this much, we've just done a day trip in Vietnam, you have to tip this much, it's just built into the price that I pay. So there's like a set price, and then I've paid like effectively the tips from people. And then if people generally just think, oh, we've had an amazing guide, and in Vietnam we have a few days, sometimes it's the same person that's been with us for a while. So if someone thinks, oh, they really have gone over and above, I'd quite like to give them a little something, then that's just up to you. But generally, and the same for Thailand, it isn't expected. And even if you just give a small tip, they'll just be extremely grateful. So it's not kind of, with like the US, and it's like, oh, I should give the right amount or I'm going to offend somebody. It's not like that. Like I said, where there is a compulsory expectation to tip in Vietnam, certainly on the trips and activities, that's kind of built in already. And then perhaps more so just in Vietnam for restaurant bills, you would kind of probably give a bit more of an expectation to tip. But again, it's more on your individual kind of decision to do it. I don't like to kind of tell people, right, I don't gather all the money in and say, right, where's everyone's tip, that kind of thing. So it's a little bit more relaxed than some other parts of the world.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay. So just to recap then, all of that information is on the website. You can just go on, and if you don't know the website, if you just literally Google Travel Queen, it will come up. So you'll see all the different information on there, and we do have other tours as well. So we have tours to Bali. I've just not covered those because we'd literally be here all night if I start to talk about those as well. But we have trips to Bali, and they're in summer, so different climate again. So best time to go to Bali is in our summer, so they're in June and July next year. And then we do also have a Croatia adventure, but I'm just looking into that and tweaking it a little bit. So excuse me, so that will be kind of summertime, early summertime and September time as well. But yeah, the other Southeast Asia trips, Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, are all the this is like the best time of year to go. So our winter, when it's miserable like this, that's generally the best time to go to those places. So that's why I've just focused on those at the moment. So those are our kind of next batch of tours that are coming up. So we've got Thailand in January and March are the next couple, and then yeah, April, Vietnam and Cambodia. And then we do have tours later in the year as well, October to Vietnam and Cambodia, and also November to Thailand. So if you can wait that long, then there's some other places, places to head to later. And I do these tours each year, so they're not set dates, but I do repeat them. So once we have a tour, we will do that tour every year. So if you're like, I really want to do this, but this isn't the right time for me, I might need a bit more notice. Then we do repeat the tours. It's not kind of a one-off, and we've done it now. So, and then just another reminder that you can go on the Travel Queen website, as well as all the tour information. There is also the Meet Real Travel Queens page, so you can go on there and just have a bit of time to read through what other women have said about their experience, which they often refer to the fact of, oh, I was completely new to this and I was feeling a bit kind of anxious and a bit daunted, which is usually what most people can relate to. And yeah, they share, and there's a few videos on there too, so it's worth going and having a look at some of the things that they say as well, because that might just make you feel a bit more real that there's other people that have done it. How are we feeling? So thank you everyone. Thanks Suzanne. So for everyone, hopefully, unless there's any more last minute questions, I will leave it there, and hopefully giving you lots to think about. The ladies that are already booked on, I look forward to sharing an adventure with you, and if you're not already booked on, hopefully you'll join us on one of the ones we've talked about in the near future or further down the line. So thank you so much for joining me, and hopefully we'll be on an adventure together soon. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Bye bye.